Hello, everyone. You are listening to Everfree Radio. This is Final Draft, and I am really excited to present Brenda Crichlow. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Well, Brenda, you voice, for those who don't know, you voice one of the more popular characters, and, I don't know that the fandom has heard much from you yet. I mean,
no, you're the first. This is the first interview I think I'm having, and I'm thrilled to do it. I had no idea I was as popular. I just go in and do the job. So hearing I'm popular is like, wow, that's news to me.
Well, I think what happened originally, and just for those who don't know, you voice Zecora.
Yes.
One of the most awesome characters in the show by far.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, aside from the writing, which, on that end, the rhyming, etc., that must be fun to perform. But, I mean, just her character is, it's an integral part of the show. And that's why I was really surprised when we first started setting up this interview that nobody had interviewed you yet.
And, well, here we be. So, yeah, as I said, I go in, do the work, and I'm thrilled to hear that everyone's responding to the character so well. You go in and you audition for these things, and you don't know where the project's going to go necessarily. So to know that this is turning into a little mini success is happy news for me. I'm feeling pretty proud of that.
Well, so before we go into, your background in voice acting and actually screen acting and your career, I wanted to ask you, what have you seen of the online brony fandom phenomenon? I mean, it seems that it's kind of exploded over the past couple of years, but I was wondering if you've been keeping up with it at all.
No, I've had one person email me, and that was through a friend of a friend. So I'm imagining that, with this interview, perhaps now I'll start to pay a little bit more attention, obviously, but I guess I'll be a little bit more accessible as well. I hear that there's a doll, too, that's come out. So, as I said, this is all news to me, so it's pretty exciting, and I just feel kind of overwhelmed. Like, wow, my character, Zecora? Like, really? Wow.
Yeah, no, your character is actually one of the more popular ones among the background or the side characters. Just, well, partially, again, because of the writing. I mean, I think everybody really enjoys, that she's got this rhyming rhythm to what she says. But, I find it interesting, it seems that with the explosion of the brony fandom online, almost all of the VAs have been hounded by the fandom, and have been, followed on Twitter and have been interviewed a million times. And so it just seems to me kind of crazy that you somehow dodged all that.
No, you know what? This must just be the tip of the iceberg, I think, for everybody. You got to start somewhere. So you're my first interview, and this must be the first of everything. So I think it's just coming to a head now as we speak. And maybe I might have missed a little bit of it because I just had a son. So I've got a 3.5-year-old girl and a 3.5-month-old baby boy. So over the last little bit. Thank you very much. I might have had my head in the clouds and been preoccupied with a few other things over the last little bit. But as I said before, I find it kind of shocking and kind of scary and exciting all at the same time that everyone is responding to my character. Who knew?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, and it's just been exploding online. There have been thousands of works of art made out of the character. There's music that's been inspired by the character. I mean, fan fiction.
Are you serious? Really?
Oh yeah. You haven't heard of
that?
that?
Oh my gosh. I know. You keep telling me things. I'm like I said, I'm just finding out about all of this. Wow.
Oh, there are artists that have millions upon millions of hits. The whole brony phenomenon has been featured on TV. It's been referenced by Stephen Colbert. It's been, various actors and celebrities have commented on it.
Oh wow! My jaw is hitting the floor right now. I'll just pick that up.
Wait a second, am I the one now informing you of the brony phenomenon?
Yes, you are. Well, in terms of my character, I knew that there was a following for everybody else, but this is news to me that people are finding my character so intriguing.
One of the reasons maybe why that your character has been a perennial favorite among a lot of fans, but that maybe you haven't seen so much of it, is that for a long time there was a bit of confusion that Zecora was voiced by, I think, Tabitha St. Germain, and then finally Tabitha on her website announced that that it was you who had been voicing Zecora. And so,
oh wow.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion there for a while.
And what a talented woman in her own right, and that's just hilarious. Oh,
well, she's hilarious herself.
It's me. She can chat try to do a Jamaican and a Trini sort of an accent and African accent all mixed into one, but, she makes me giggle when she does give it a go.
Well,
It sounds a little more Irish.
Is that your inspiration for Zecora's voicing then? Is a Jamaican African sound? I mean, I definitely get the African vibe from it, but I mean, were you looking for a Caribbean sound too?
It sort of metamorphosed a little bit in the audition. My background, I'm half Jamaican. That's from my mom's side, and half Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, okay.
So when it comes time to doing accents, sometimes I'm asked to do a generic West Indian sort of a flavor, and we never want anything to be too, them drive there, or something like that. You cannot understand, because then, there's nothing that they can really do with that. It's like, what did you say? So we try to find a happy medium, and going through the audition process, they were sort of, well, where do we want to take this character? And I got to play a little bit in the audition with sort of making it kind of West Indian, kind of African, but you can't really identify exactly which part. And then gradually I just started to drop the register. And when you start with a Jamaican accent, everything is like, hi, how are you? How are you doing? It is so good to meet you. And then gradually, because she's a bit wise and, she's the one that everyone goes to for their potions and concoctions and advice and whatnot, gradually we thought somewhere down here we would find a character, but we would make sure that Zecora is somewhere like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So I was kind of playing around with where it would go and where it would fit in my register. And kaboom, we settled on where she sits now.
Yeah, I was
and that's where it is. It's a mixture of, a little bit of Jamaican sing-song and a little bit of somewhere in Africa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely the voice is much lower than your natural speaking voice, and so that was one of the first things. When we started talking on the phone, I'm like, oh, this is Brenda.
Well, then that's my job, right? My job is to give you that and find where she would live and where this character comes from, a place of, integrity and some truth to the character. So that's where she seemed to sit comfortably. And as I said, as we were going along with the process, and it just sort of metamorphosed into it's sitting lower and lower. And as I'm going along, the character just suddenly felt comfortable to be here. So I'm I'm just tickled pink, as I said, to hear that it's such a phenomenon. Who knew?
It's crazy.
Who knew?
It's
That's
absolutely
great.
crazy. I mean, there are people out there who draw their own original character ponies as zebras modeled off of Zecora. There are, fans out there
gosh,
who
I've
go,
got to see that.
oh, they're out there. There's an artist named Fetchbeer specifically who I'm thinking of right now. But there's also, people who will go into chat rooms and they'll make a point to chat in rhyme to mimic Zecora's, cadence.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
That is great. I love doing her. It's the most fun I've ever had. It's such a great group of people that I get to work with. And I'm absolutely, as I said, thrilled to be on the show. I can't think of anything or any place I'd rather be when we're recording. I've got the greatest job in the world.
Well,
I really do.
When you went into audition for the character, did you audition only for Zecora, or did you audition for other characters as well? Because I've found that a lot of the VAs I've spoken to have actually gone and they usually have tried it out for 3, 4, sometimes 5 characters.
Right. In the past, I have gone for other characters. I think I just came in specifically for Zecora. I might have read for one other one, but really and truly my talents sometimes are just focused in on one thing. I come from a film and television background, so I consider myself blessed to be able to work within this field with some talented artists. Voiceover artists. I really consider myself talented to be amongst them. I learn from them, really. They do this every day, all day. I get lucky and come in and voice Zecora and do some voice tags. I'm known a lot as well for voice tags, and voice tags sometimes are for a particular company. Maybe it's a public service announcement, or maybe it's a commercial for, like the new Ford Explorer. They want something that's, with 4-wheel drive, it'll take you where you need to go. I have a bit of a smoky or tone to the voice, as it were. So when I land a part, I'm always, oh, Wow, I feel lucky, and I've worked hard for it. Don't get me wrong, but I know that I can always be better in that field for sure. So I'll always remain rather humble, and give kudos to some of my cohorts who do this so effortlessly and work. And it's an amazing synergy that happens when you're in the room with some of these voiceover artists, for sure. So I believe I came in and just worked Zecora for a little bit and then kind of left. And sometimes you leave too when you're doing the audition and go, I don't know if that sounded very good. Is that okay? Let's try that again. Why didn't I think of that? And it's too late. You've left the room. So you hope that the producing team has gathered something and from it and can see the potential for where the character can grow, because it is definitely a little journey in there. And yeah, I look forward to coming in each and every time.
Yeah, well, actually, going back to, you mentioned that you do a lot of voiceover work for commercials and for advertisements. Have you ever had to do one that was particularly obnoxious? Something that just, some product or service that just you never thought you'd be advertising for?
I've got to think about that. No, I've had more film and TV roles that were, I got to play a rather nasty character, and that was great. Most of the, I would have to say sometimes with the writing, you're wondering what the heck you're saying when you're doing some of these commercials. And if you land it, you just have to kind of go with it and go, okay, I don't know what they exactly meant by that. But for the most part, everything's been pretty straightforward. I've had more film and television roles that I've got to play a nasty character or something like that, which, they're juicy roles. You get to sink your teeth into those because those don't come along as much as just some of the generic doctor, lawyer, reporter roles. So when you get one where your character gets to show some fangs and is viciously messy, it's delightful.
Do you particularly enjoy playing villains then?
Oh, sure.
I mean, if you had a choice, if you're given a choice of screen roles, and I should mention for the audience too that, I mean, you've got a really extensive repertoire of different roles in films and in TV, which really, in a sense, makes you kind of unique among the voice actors of the show. I mean, most of them are, like you said, professional voice actors who, and you're professional as well, but professional voice actors who do just voice acting as their career. The majority of your career, from what I've been gleaning, has been mostly on camera.
Yes, I started, oh gosh, I'm going to date myself, but
we're all
it's
older
all
than
good.
we want
I'm
to
very
be.
proud of my start. I started, I guess, when film and TV was just blossoming here. So that would have been the early days of shows like MacGyver, Jump Street, Look Who's Talking, Cousins with Ted Danson, Isabella Rossellini, all those shows that were coming in the early 90s, I guess, late 80s, early 90s was when film and television just took off. I graduated right out of theater school out of Studio 58 and basically went right. I missed my graduation. And to this day, I kind of think on what that would have been like to have just walked across with some of my classmates. But I was booked on a show. I was guest starring on something. I think it was MacGyver, second episode of MacGyver. And from there, I've just worked right through. I think I took some time off and went back to university. I went to SFU for a little while and did some sciences and some literature there. And then I was teaching too, so I ran a studio as well for about 10 years under my name, Crichlow Actors Studio. I think it's still up on the website, actually, and I should probably take down some of that info because I never took it down when I had my daughter. I closed the studio location, the commercial space, but kept the company and still coach under the company logo. And it's my way of being able to kind of give back to the industry. And I work. I'm a chameleon of sorts. With voiceover, you can go in your pajamas and nobody cares what you look like. With film and television, if you are able to diversify and, change your look a little bit and use your voice for some things, and I'll explain what has worked for me in terms of some of the reporting roles, then some of that consistency and ability to be diverse allows you to be successful in auditioning for film and TV because it's a different form of imagination. When they see you, they're seeing you physically. So if you can change your look, whether it's wear a wig, short hair, whether you're in a suit, whether it's change your voice and come in and be a reporter. I can totally give them. What did I just work on? I was just on Psych, actually, yesterday morning.
Oh, I love that show. That is one of my favorite shows.
I was playing a hostess, so if whenever that episode comes out, you'll see me on that one, and that's me being a reporter. And they seem to like my voice for reporting, and that's just me thinking on some of the CNN and CTV News global reporters that do the news at 6 o'clock that everybody watches. That's me imitating them and coming in with that. What you're seeing is a freight train carrying radioactive and nuclear weapons as it speeds across Denver out of control. They like that tone kind of thing. And coming in sometimes with a different look, I'll book some of those roles. But that's also utilizing not just the physical, but utilizing the voice. So I try with that, and also sometimes with accents. Being a woman of color, again, because you're looking at the visual, sometimes some of the roles they want this character to be very Black American, very ghetto. So one of the roles I landed on Jump Street in the early days was Shawanda, and that character was very ghetto. So any opportunity you get to practice accents for characters, there you go. You utilize it in front of the camera as well as on radio, behind the scenes kind of thing.
Well, and I know that what was it? I'm a speech coach. I'm a high school speech coach myself, and I often and when I try to train my students to have a little bit more of a confident tone, I tell them to do that fake CNN voice. Talking like everything you're saying is very important. That kind of bombastic. But I think you do it much better.
And that is just paying attention to cadences, knowing in your register where you're going to go, where you're going to place it in your voice, right? And as you said, everything is important. Marina Maxwell, CKCN News. Everything is on a plane, as it were. It's like a symphony. So it's listening. It's a lot of listening skills, and then going home and practicing. And anyone who's pursuing, a career in voice or in film and TV, I'll say honestly, it's just the study of human nature. That's all it is. It's listening and looking at mannerisms, how people walk, talk. And then when you come into a studio, per se, and we're doing our characters, you're utilizing the whole physical. It's too bad you can't see it every day, see it in action, because, your whole body is engaged, and we are just a vessel. So if we can study human nature and just do what people do and do it to the best of our own ability and imitate that, you've got a tickle box full of characters. And some people are just better at it than others, right? Some people have a gift for getting every kind of accent you can imagine and doing it really, really well. And there's no reason why any of us can't aspire to that level. We just have to work a little harder.
Well, thinking back at your whole, screen career to date, what has been the most difficult role for you to play that you've landed? What's been the most challenging for you to develop as a character?
The most challenging? I did one episode of Jeremiah, where I played a character that was dying of the plague. If you go through the whole process from the audition right to when you're shooting, then here's some things that you don't want the director or the producers to know. And this is the same when you're doing voice as well. You have a life, right? So when you walk into through those doors, and you're into the audition, you're there to be present and do the job. Nobody cares about anything else. When I auditioned for this particular role, my mom had just died, and coming into that role, this character is dying of the plague, and she's saying right off the top to her husband to shoot her. Here's the gun, kill me. And I'm saying this very flat. But if you can imagine going into an audition where you say, director and producer are there, hi, how are you? Good, yes, great. Okay, when you're ready, standing by, here we go. I think I auditioned they put some dialogue ahead of that with another character that was just to kind of warm us up. And then, you flip the page. And this goes from 0 to 60. There's no in between. You have to be prepped and ready to go. And in every instance, it's not going to be, when you go into an audition, it's not going to be something personal that is going to be able to make you hit the emotional mark that you need to, you also need to be able to practice together because you have muscle memory within your body if you've practiced to be able to get those to those levels with breath and, just your goals, what you want, where you want to go with this character, all that kind of stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
so
do.
coming into that particular role, what was challenging about that was dealing with everything outside of my personal life and coming into the room. And then, all right, I'm supposed to look at the reader and tell this person to kill me. All right, do it. Go. The amount of emotion that came up and bubbled up, it's almost like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, I think, when he says that line, you want to know the truth? I don't think you can handle the truth. You want to see what I've got in here? I don't think you can handle it. And I just let it rip. And I think the amount of emotion that came out was appropriate for the character and for that, but there was not one other actress at that point in time that could top it. And I know that because it was a truth that came out with just go, just do it, just do it. I don't want to be here, and blah, 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 blah. And it was just the lines and the emotion and bam. And then now you have to get yourself back to a professional point and say, thank you, and leave. Pick yourself up after you've just literally ripped your heart out and shown everybody your insides and go. And needless to say, I happily landed the role. And then now I have to go on camera and do exactly what I did in the audition with a few tweaks here and there. And the only challenging thing with that now is that as people, we're in different places in terms of your moment in time from 2 weeks ago from when you auditioned to it, for the show, to where you are now. You're not in that emotional place necessarily. So now it's going to be the work that you've done as an actor, all the studying that you've done, you're going to have to bring that to play as well, because now you've got to cry all day, all day. So you better have some other tools and not just always rely on something personal, so to speak.
Do you then draw upon personal experiences to, I guess, it seems to me that you're doing two things at once. You're separating yourself from it in order to maintain that professionalism, but then you're also drawing upon it maybe to enhance that effect.
But this is what I'm saying. Sometimes that will work, and sometimes that won't, because you're not always necessarily in the same space. So you have to have also done a lot of character work and breath work and body work to be able to be consistent with what you may have done either in the audition, or if you're with a character that's always going to be very emotional or what have you, you have to have done some of the script work, the script breakdown and the character breakdown as well, because you're not always, that's not always going to make you cry. Some kind of event is not going to make you always mad or make you really laugh each time you go to do it. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So if I think back, I'm not always going to be upset about, this is what happened to my mom. I was able to use some tears because I'm not really a crier in real life. I cry if there's something really awful, it's bad. I'm usually a pretty happy island girl. It's like, hey, how are you doing? Yes. So I think you have to know that it's, I say this to my students when I'm coaching other performers, other actors, that you might be able to use it once and get lucky, but do the script work and the breakdown, know your character, know what your character wants, so that it's always placed within your body somewhere and into the physical, and you've incorporated it that way. And then you have that as your bag of tricks, if you need to kind of touch on what happened, how did you cry, or how did you laugh when you heard that news? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's a process. I mean, like I mentioned before, I coach speech, and I coach actually specifically public address speech, which is more of politics and debate and that sort of thing.
Cool.
But I work with a lot of dramatic speech coaches, and they call that internalization, which I'm sure you've heard that term.
Yeah, and everybody has different words for it, but absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely know what it's like to judge a tournament where it's an entire day of students doing these heartrending pieces about suicide and drugs and murder and all these other things, and they have to do that. They have to do the same thing at the high school level like that, where at the end of their piece they compose themselves and put on a nice little polite smile and go back and take their seat. It's kind of interesting.
Pick yourself up. It's the whole process. I guess a lot of people don't realize for the audition process and then doing the work. It's an emotional journey, and it doesn't matter if it's a comedic thing. We happen to be on a show that's got a lot of comedy in there, for sure. But doesn't make the process any less effortless. Does that make sense? We laugh all day with what we have to do, but you still have to be able to draw on your timing, on your breath, on your goals or internalization, as I said, depending on what people want to say, your choreography, putting it into your body physically. There's a whole thing that goes on. And when we're working on our show, nobody's necessarily watching us as we're doing it, but I can tell you there's hands a flailing and there's lots of breath and there's a whole lot of going on.
Well, I've met some of those VAs in person. I can believe it, especially like Tabitha or Andrea. I can imagine.
Oh, they're my two faves. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, of course, like what Nicole Oliver says, that she brings a bottle of aspirin with her into the studio just whenever she has lines to share with was it Andrea? But yeah.
Oh well, yeah, Andrea, she must have like a 20 octave range. Oh my gosh, she can hit notes that I didn't even know existed. And she goes way up here, talk way, and there she goes. She sails on those notes, But everybody has their gifts, and yes, a bottle of aspirin sometimes when it's first thing in the morning is like a handy thing to have. Absolutely.
Well, you've mentioned, looking at Zecora as a character, you've mentioned how you developed the accent. But what sorts of character elements did you bring in beyond just the accent and the tone to develop the character? Obviously the writers write the lines, and I know that Lauren Faust had a specific vision of Zecora as kind of a mentor shaman type. I mean, I think that was her original name, was Shaman. And I'm just wondering what you brought to the character. What is your impact on the character beyond just the accent?
My input into the character. Oh, I think she's grounded. I just feel that she's got her feet firmly planted, and I don't want to say a heavier character. I just feel that she's weighted. She knows her place. She's confident, and she has her potions and her designs on. Take my advice. I know, I have seen, and don't take me for a fool because I know of what I speak. So I think for her, it's coming from that place of integrity and grace, and she speaks the truth. And in my own life, I follow that as well. So I think I bring a little bit of me into that. I try to practice that myself, always coming from a place of grace, integrity, and respect. So I would have to say that there's a little bit of me in there too.
Well, and I think that those values really do play through in the performance, and I think that that's probably a big reason, if not the main reason, why the character is so popular among fans. I was going to then say too, though, when you first saw the script for Zecora, and you first saw that, I mean, this is really what a lot of people know her for, that everything she says rhymes or is done in almost that Yoda style of speaking. What was your reaction to that? Was that something you expected? Is that something they warned you about?
No, I wasn't warned about it. I just discovered it as we were going through the script, and then you see that, there's another one there. Oh, there's another one there. And then the danger was, okay, how to make that come alive, even though it's a rhyming pair or so, but to make sure that the sense of it, the message still gets across, and it doesn't get lost also in the rhyme. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was what I have to work on is or my challenge was to look at it and then keep the character and not just go Jack, splat, and just not have any weight to it, or have it you just said it, but it didn't have any message that was also going across. So it's trying to find that truth within the rhyme and not getting lost in that rhythm.
Yeah. Well, looking at your overall career again, we've talked a bit about your work in front of the camera. You've got this role behind the camera, and you've got your advertising role. Are you looking to do more of this kind of voice acting work in other series? Is that somewhere you see your career going, or are you just kind of taking it as it comes?
Oh, I'll take it as it comes. I'm happy to audition for anything anybody wants to throw my way. Are you kidding? I'm an artist. I'll be thrilled to be on anything and everything and work on another voice or character. I would never say no to that. No. But my first allegiance obviously is to our show, and I look forward to Zecora developing more and more and seeing where that goes. As I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You just totally caught me by surprise with all this wonderful news, and I'm thrilled. I feel so blessed, as I said, to be able to have a job to go to where we get to laugh every day, and everyone in that room, when it's time to record, gets down to the seriousness of it, and we do our best to give everybody a great show and get our timing and support everybody. As I said, it's wonderful people going right around that circle of microphones. So if other work branches from this, how wonderful. And again, I just feel like I can't go wrong if this character takes off in a whole other way. So I'm an artist and always happy to be working, and I would never never say no.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. You just don't know with this industry, as I said, you know? You never know what the response is going to be.
I think this fandom proves that. I think this fandom shows that because, I mean, if you haven't seen it, there are websites out there. I mean, our website is effectively a fan site. It's got well over 1 million views already. I mean, it's there.
Well, I'm going to be looking it up.
Yeah.
And check that out.
I mean, and there are other websites out there. There's a website called Equestria Daily that has logged over 200 million views. Now, usually in a interview, I always ask what I call the evil question. And I usually put it towards the end of an interview, but I feel like this is a good time to ask it either way.
Evil. Okay. Should I prepare myself?
Well, just brace yourself a little bit. People who have heard my interviews before know what I'm about to ask. If you could have something from the fandom, anything at all, like a work of art, a work of music, a fan fiction, anything from the My Little Pony fandom online at all, what would it be? And bear in mind that whatever you ask, more than likely will be done within a few hours of this interview being released.
Oh.
See, it's an evil question.
That is an evil question. Oh, well, gee. I love art, and anybody that can draw or has an interpretation of Zecora, that would be wonderful. I have to go out and actually go and buy my own little doll there, just so I can have it and show my daughter too. But yeah,
she's glow in the dark.
I get really asked for saying something like that. I do, but yeah, you ask that question to people, really?
I've asked that. Yeah, I asked that to just about everyone because it's an evil question. But sometimes you get really specific answers.
Well, yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, if somebody has a little talent and draws, that's great. I'm touched either way. You know what? Nobody has to make me or do anything, but I'm touched with just the attention that this has brought. That's, as I said, I have no words. You can hear it in my voice that I don't even know where to go. It's just like, wow. Who knew? That's my expression that's going to be going down in time is who knew. I have to pick my job.
Just wait till you start poking around the internet. You might be surprised with what you
Can
find.
Can I call you and say, you're right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, go for it. Yeah, honestly, of course, I can't speak for the quality of everything that's on the internet, but I think that the online fandom has been incredibly positive, and it's been really, really, it's been incredibly creative.
I thank the fans for their interest 100%, and how great that people are actually listening to our show and paying attention. And honestly, it's not just me; it's everybody. We've got a great cast, so wow, how they fell in love with Zecora. Yeah. Wow.
I think they fell in love with all the characters, really, but I know some people who have her as their favorite, yeah. And it's because she's, like you said, she's this wise, sage character who, who's grounded, who's positive, but also an active mentor.
Yeah, and in my own life, I think there are some parallels, and I'm excited to share that. I believe in all of that kind of mentorship stuff, and, I wouldn't say that I'm the enlightened one by any means. I aspire all the time to be better in my own world, in my own life. But in terms of being able to give back, I do believe in mentoring others. And I did that successfully 3-4 times with different groups of teens. I had the mentorship program I started where I gave these kids 14 weeks of on-camera training and introduced them as well into the world of voiceover to anyone who would come and speak to these children, and just give them a heads up as to what the industry was about. So what I did was I didn't get it funded or anything like that. I just started with 5 and called it the Fab 5, and I auditioned 100 high school students. I wanted unrepresented high school students. So when you look it up, you'll see the criteria that was posted, and then the winners that we had just held auditions, and a couple of times I got the community to be involved. So I got some casting directors, and keeping in mind that these are people that I also have to audition in front of. And I just said, you know what, everybody should be able to give back, and nobody should be paid for this kind of advice. If we want to encourage talent here in the city, everybody in any city really should be mentoring and fostering that kind of connection with the youth.
Absolutely.
I had these students first off audition and write an essay as to why they felt they should be able to attend this kind of a program, and then come in and do a monologue and an interview and have a callback, and then provide them with 14 weeks of on-camera training, as well as an ability to meet and greet with industry professionals. So whether we went to North Shore Studios here in Vancouver and were on the set of Kyle XY with casting directors who do that show, or off into an actual casting session to watch what happens behind the scenes, or have them come over to my studio, I exposed them to as many people that I knew were good as well with the kids. Not every casting person or agency is necessarily good with talking or want to give that time, but whoever would come that I knew of that would come and speak, so whether it was an agent one week and then a casting director the next week, and or a director or a producer that I had worked with on one of my shows, I got them to come in, and for the cost of a bottle of wine and a bouquet or what have you, I got them to give an hour of their time so that the kids could ask whatever questions that they wanted. And then it grew to the next year. We did the Sensational 6 and the Magnificent 7 and then the Incredible 8. And then I kind of got married, and, well, I think I got pregnant first and then married, and then the house, did everything kind of backwards. But I just kind of left it with the idea of closing the studio space and kept the company. So I still coach under the auspices of Crichlow Actors Studio and just do one-on-one coaching, or else I go on film sets and coach. And I've done that as well. So there you go. That's kind of, I do a bunch of things from, on camera to, so there are some parallels there with Zecora. I'm happy to be affiliated because those are my values.
Oh yeah, well, and I think the show in general as well really does push really positive social values, and it's such a non-cynical show. I mean, people, I think, really resonate with the positive message of it, and I think your character is just an element of that too.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely crazy. Going back to it, I wanted to know when you first had, well, I mean, maybe this is when you first really heard of it, but when did you first hear of the whole brony movement? When did that become news to you?
From the other performers. They were talking about different conventions and things that they have attended, and just the fans. But I was a bit removed because I was brand new to the cast. So I had no idea that there was this huge following, and I didn't know what it meant either. It's like, well, brony, why do they call them that? And who are these people? and how is it that the show has garnered such a fandom? And people just said, hey, they love the show. It's great writers. And as I said, the cast, they're just amazing people. So, and the producing team and the directing team, Terry Klassen and everyone on board, I have nothing but great things to say about that. It's such a professional group of people. So that's how I heard about the following. And then, we did some promo things where we got to autograph and sign some posters that came out. And it was like, oh, there's my character. I'll just put my little thing there. But honestly, I feel very naive. I had no idea it has exploded this way. So you're my first interview. You're my first interview, and my first awareness, really, of how much everyone has been paying attention to my character, to dear Zecora.
I think all the fans out there just there's a term for it. They call it squeeing. I think it's based off of one of the sound effects from the show.
What's that?
It's where you kind of squeal in a high pitched voice. When you react to something.
Yes.
Yeah, like that. Exactly. I would attempt it, but I think everybody would want to rip their ears out. I'm just curious. Have you really heard much about the conventions that have been happening this year, the different, My Little Pony themed conventions? And what's your take on those? Is that something a kind of event that you would want to ever show up at?
Oh, I'd love to go. I would love to go. I did hear of one in Atlanta, and I don't know if people would like me to attend. I'll be there in a heartbeat. I would love to meet everybody and give a personal handshake or two and say thank you for listening, as I said. So I would love to meet everybody and see what the conventions are about, no doubt.
Is there anything specifically that we haven't gone over that you would like me to mention?
Sure. I'll tell you right now, and I hope everybody will go and put some bums in seats. There's a show that's going to be released August 31st, and that's called The Possession. Kyra Sedgwick is starring in it, and another actor who's on Grey's Anatomy. I'm just having mommy brain for a moment. Lovely man. It's just escaped me for half a heartbeat. It will come. Anyway, I have a minor role in this feature film. It's a horror film, so be prepared. And yeah, I won't say much more. I play a teacher in this particular piece that gets fascinated with this. I can't say too much more. I think you need to go see it. I won't say anything more, but I do die. And every actor likes to have that opportunity to play a character that gets offed in a movie. So that comes out August 31st, and it's called The Possession. And if you go online, you can also look for me in a show opposite Jeannie Francis and Ted McGinley called The Note, The Heart Healer Part 3. And that's out right now. It's on the Hallmark channel, actually. It aired around Mother's Day. So if you look for it online, you might just find it, or you can buy it, I guess, online too. And I played Jeannie Francis's friend, lawyer, in the movie. So I was one of the supporting leads in the show, which was a real pleasure. So those are my two projects that have just come out, and a couple other ones that we've been working on is we've just had young Justin, who's just born April 26th. Yeah.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you. You made my day. You have no idea. You really have no idea.
Oh, we'll see. I can imagine 3 weeks from now. What have you done?
You'll be coming to me for advice, because then we'll talk.
Oh my. I will warn you one other thing that if you really want to see the fandom, in all of its glory, Twitter. It's out there, and it is dominated right now by Andrea Libman and Tara Strong and Nicole Oliver, Kathy Westlock. Lee, everybody's on Twitter now, so
okay.
You might want to consider.
I might want to consider
just
getting
saying.
on board.
Yeah, again, though, I'm warning you. It's a can of worms. It's awesome. It's incredibly positive. I think that it's always fun, though. I mean, for me, it's surprising that you hadn't seen that part of the fandom yet, and it's going to be, I think, surprising for you.
No, you just broke the news, and I'll tell you, it's like Christmas in July right now. I'm so touched and really happy, so I'll be checking it out. I will be checking it out. But the biggest thing, because once I'm watching this and looking at this, no one else will be around. I'll be just me, myself, and I, so I better just say thank you from the bottom of my heart for having such an interest in the show and in Zecora. It means a lot.
Well, thank you for all the work you've done on the show. I mean, really, it shows.
Pleasure.
Well, all right, everybody. Once again, Brenda Crichlow is the voice of Zecora on My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And again, thank you so much for joining us. actors and celebrities have commented on it.
Oh wow, my jaw is hitting the floor right now. I'll just pick that up.
Wait a second, am I the
Wow.
one now informing you of the brony phenomenon?
Yes, you are. Well, in terms of my character, I knew that there was a following for everybody else, but this is news to me that people are finding my character so intriguing.
One of the reasons maybe why that your character has been a perennial favorite among a lot of fans, but that maybe you haven't seen so much of it, is that for a long time there was a bit of confusion that Zecora was voiced by, I think, Tabitha St. Germain, and then finally Tabitha on her website announced that that it was you who had been voicing Zecora. And so,
oh wow.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion there
Tabitha,
for a while.
and what a talented woman in her own right, and that's just hilarious. Oh, my goodness.
Well, she's hilarious herself.
It's me. She can try to do a Jamaican and a Trini sort of an accent and African accent all mixed into one, but she makes me giggle when she does give it a go.
Well, actually,
it sounds a little more Irish.
Is that your inspiration for Zecora's voicing then? Is a Jamaican African sound? I mean, I definitely get the African vibe from it, but I mean, were you looking for a Caribbean sound too?
It sort of metamorphosed a little bit in the audition. My background, I'm half Jamaican. That's from my mom's side, and half Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, okay.
So when it comes time to doing accents, sometimes I'm asked to do a generic West Indian sort of a flavor, and we never want anything to be too, them drive there, or something like that. You cannot understand, because then, there's nothing that I can really do with that. It's like, what did you say? So we try to find a happy medium, and going through the audition process, they were sort of, well, where do we want to take this character? And I got to play a little bit in the audition with sort of making it kind of West Indian, kind of African, but you can't really identify exactly which part. And then gradually I just started to drop the register. And when you start with a Jamaican accent, everything is like, hi, how are you? How are you doing? It is so good to meet you. And then gradually, because she's a bit wise and, she's the one that everyone goes to for their potions and concoctions and advice and whatnot, gradually we thought somewhere down here we would find the character, but we would make sure that Zecora is somewhere like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So I was kind of playing around with where it would go and where it would fit in my register. And kaboom, we settled on where she sits now.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it is. It's
viewed a million times, and so it just seems to me kind of crazy that you somehow dodged all that.
No, you know what? This must just be the tip of the iceberg, I think, for everybody. You got to start somewhere. So you're my first interview, and this must be the first of everything. So I think it's just coming to a head now as we speak. And maybe I might have missed a little bit of it because I just had a son. So I've got a 3.5-year-old girl and a 3.5-month-old baby boy. So over the last little bit, thank you very much. I might have had my head in the clouds and been preoccupied with a few other things over the last little bit. But as I said before, I find it kind of shocking and kind of scary and exciting all at the same time that everyone is responding to my character. Who knew?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, and it's just been exploding online. There have been thousands of works of art made out of the character. There's music that's been inspired by the character. I mean, fan fiction.
Are you serious?
Oh,
really?
Oh, yeah. You haven't heard of
that?
Oh
my gosh. I know. You keep telling me things. I'm like I said, I'm just finding out about all of this. Wow.
Oh, there are artists that have millions upon millions of hits. The whole brony phenomenon has been featured on TV. It's been referenced by Stephen Colbert. It's been, various. Hello everyone, you are listening to Everfree Radio. This is Final Draft, and I am really excited to present Brenda Crichlow. Welcome.
Hello, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Well, Brenda, you voice, for those who don't know, you voice one of the more popular characters, and, I don't know that the fandom has heard much from you yet. I mean,
No, you're the first. This is the first interview I think I'm having, and I'm thrilled to do it. I had no idea I was as popular. I just go in and do the job. So hearing I'm popular is like, wow, that's news to me.
well, I think what happened originally, and just for those who don't know, you voice Zecora,
Yes.
one of the most awesome characters in the show by far.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, aside from the writing, which, on that end, the rhyming, etc., that must be fun to perform. But I mean, just her character is, it's an integral part of the show, and that's why I was really surprised when we first started setting up this interview that nobody had interviewed you yet.
And well, here we be. So yeah, as I said, I go in, do the work, and I'm thrilled to hear that everyone's responding to the character so well. You go in and you audition for these things, and you don't know where the project's going to go necessarily. So to know that this is turning into a little mini success is happy news for me. I'm feeling pretty proud of that.
Well, so before we go into your background in voice acting and actually screen acting and your career, I wanted to ask you, what have you seen of the online brony fandom phenomenon? I mean, it seems that it's kind of exploded over the past couple of years, but I was wondering if you've been keeping up with it at all.
No, I've had one person email me, and that was through a friend of a friend. So I'm imagining that, with this interview, perhaps now I'll start to pay a little bit more attention, obviously, but I guess I'll be a little bit more accessible as well. I hear that there's a doll, too, that's come out. So, as I said, this is all news to me, so it's pretty exciting, and I just feel kind of overwhelmed. Like, wow, my character, Zecora? Like, really? Wow.
Yeah, no, your character is actually one of the more popular ones among the side characters, just, well, partially, again, because of the writing. I mean, I think everybody really enjoys, that she's got this rhyming rhythm to what she says. But, I find it interesting, it seems that with the explosion of the brony fandom online, almost all of the VAs have been hounded by the fandom, and have been, followed on Twitter and have been interviewed